On April the 13th, 1986, a ceremony was held in the Welsh seaside town of Barmouth to celebrate the reopening to locomotives of the bridge over the Mordack River estuary. The reopening was in preparation for the restoration of a through London to Porthlewey service from May 1986 after a gap of 20 years. Together with the introduction of sprinter units and radio signalling, this marks a major turnaround for the Cambrian coast route, which had been slated for closure in 1971. Reprieve came initially in 1974 after a hard-fought campaign by a local action group, but it appeared likely that closure would, after all, be made when it was discovered in April 1980 that Barmouth Bridge was defective. Marine termites had attacked the bridge's wooden piers, and the first estimate of repair costs was £5 million. A further campaign was fought, and new estimates of the repair costs were made at £1.7 million. As a result, BR authorised a major investment programme which has now borne fruit. The celebrations included the naming after the bridge of a Class 37, number 37427, which was the second locomotive of the pair seen hauling the first through train from Euston over the reopened bridge. This train carried VIPs to the ceremony and was welcomed enthusiastically in the town. Additional special trains were run using sprinter units from Shrewsbury, Aberystwyth and Porthlewey. Further views are to be seen in our news section. The advent of the American Class 59 was a major step in the history of Britain's railways. 59001 is seen arriving at Merehead Quarry, operated by the locomotive's owners, Foster Yeoman. The quarry is situated on the former East Somerset line from Witham Friary to Yatton. Foster Yeoman have an American switcher for shunting purposes, and have also preserved a Class 52, which is not in operating condition. Trains join the Great Western Main Line at Witham, 59003, bringing a Botley train off the branch in heavy rain. The 59s incorporate an anti-slip device, which means that despite having a similar nominal power rating to BR Class 56s and 58s, they're able to take heavy loads unaided up banks. Dilton Marsh Bank, south of Westbury, is one such, the 59s eliminating the use of bankers. BR's own internal stone traffic is primarily for ballast duties, 27067 working four-wheel ballast wagons north of Shap Summit on the West Coast Main Line. Much ballast is carried in bogie hopper wagons, these being shunted at Miller Hill, just south of Edinburgh. ICI work massive quarries in the Derbyshire Peak District. These are situated east of Buxton and have ensured that the northern portion of the former Midland Main Line from Derby to Manchester has remained in use. Locomotives are supplied by Buxton Depot, running to the quarries via the old Midland Buxton branch. Many Midland characteristics remain, especially on the signalling side. The quarries produce limestone, some of which is powdered and transported in tank wagons. The former Peak Forest Station buildings remain standing. Named after the Peak District, Class 45 still see use in the area. The quarry shunter at Peak Forest is an ex-BR Class 07, originally built for use in Southampton docks. The line was noted for its splendid scenery, and the rock cutting leading to Dove Hole's tunnel is particularly photogenic. On the 22nd of March 1986, the BBC visited the Midhants Railway to film the follow-up to Return to Evercreech Junction. Donald Beale, Peter Smith and Mike Arlott are again featured, the film covering the southern end of the Somerset and Dorset. Initially, at least, this film will only be shown on the local BBC West service. After the Western Region style headboard had been replaced by a southern replica, Donald drove Bodmin up the bank to Medstead. Volume 2 of our Ivo Peters Somerset and Dorset Railway video will be available towards the end of the year. In pouring rain, typical of April 1986, we undertook a cab ride from Portsmouth to Cardiff aboard 47559 Sir Joshua Reynolds. Portsmouth Harbour is the terminus for the electric services from Waterloo and Brighton, in addition to diesel services from Southampton, Bristol and South Wales. Trains connect with boats to Ryde on the Isle of Wight.
I'm pretty good over this region. If you're running out of time, they'll keep you up. If you're late,
the last trip we done wonderful. We was right time all the way until we got between Salisbury and where we was waiting to come out on the main line.
Portsmouth and Southsea Station is situated in the main shopping area and consists of two parts, high and low levels. The low level has recently been reduced to two platform faces, both terminals, the majority of trains calling at the high level island platform on Portsmouth Harbour trains. A severe curve leads to Fareham Station. The line coming in from the left was the original route from Gosport to Eastleigh. By St Denis, the rain had eased off, the approach to the station again on a severe curve, leading to a junction with the southwestern main line from Waterloo to Bournemouth.
And also a bloody nuisance. Well, the batteries, we've had a lot of trouble with traction batteries. Actually, when you're using traction motors, which use heavy currents, you're going to have problems with the batteries, because really over the course of years we've never improved our batteries a great deal. We've made small ones.
To the right is Bevis Park Yard, which incorporates a cement terminal. The Class 33's heading an oil train from Forley, being held on the slow line as the line becomes double from St Denis.
Well, there's, I think it's 7, I'm not sure if it's 5 or 7 used on the diagram.
The line going straight ahead is the original main line to Southampton Terminus, now leading only to the docks. Southampton Tunnel was the subject of major expenditure recently and is signalled for bi-directional running over both roads.
Must have been in the 1960s, fairly early.
65 it was built, or rather it was converted from existing steam stock.
The first one was a Nelson that we converted to try that kind of thing.
Yes, yes, there was 6
But
cars.
I don't know where the stock actually came from. I've never taken that much interest in where it came from.
I gather one of the TCs, one coach in a
The Bournemouth line is to have new electric stock in connection with electrification onto Weymouth. As before on this line, old equipment is to be reused, power equipment coming from the present 4-rep electric units.
Now dual voltage locomotives, electric locomotives, you're over in third rail now.
Yes, the new ones come
multiple
through
units.
Snow Hill.
Yeah, 319s.
Yes. They're due to come through
Although the
Snow Hill.
railway's presence in Southampton docks is but a shadow of its former self, the area supports 2 Freightliner depots, both on the western side of the city. The Millbrook depot was the first to be built and deals with local traffic, whilst the maritime depot is situated between the line and the container port, dealing exclusively with shipborne traffic.
47089.
That's the stuff.
Roxyville now, it's all 30, I think it is.
47's everywhere all of a sudden.
Yeah, there's another one here.
When you
Look.
consider there aren't
47341.
there are no 47s allocated to the southern.
Years ago there was 6. There was 6 at Eastleigh.
Those were the last. That's the last
That was
year
under
of
the old.
steam,
That
wasn't
was
it?
under the old numbering as well.
Oh yes, the D.
Our route divides from the Bournemouth main line at Redbridge, to the left of which is the Southern Sleeper and Rail depot.
We've just brought out a modified 350. We just brought out a 350,
Yes.
slightly modified.
Why is that through for a minute?
Now it's got now an electric oil transfer pump.
Oh yeah, I read somebody
It's
on
got
the news about it.
it's got
At Romsey, the line from Eastleigh joins from the right. This line is primarily a freight line, but is used for weekend passenger
via
diversions.
the other way via Eastleigh into that road and along to sort of that way if we wanted to. I think it was done as part of the planning.
Yes.
Just outside Salisbury, a loop line was relayed some 4 years ago, more than 100 years after its original closure.
You're right. And this was because of the tunnel.
Yes.
The South Western's West of England main line is joined at Salisbury Tunnel Junction.
Fisherton Tunnel? No. Salisbury Tunnel.
This is Salisbury Tunnel Junction.
yeah.
Salisbury.
Oh, it's Salisbury, isn't it?
Yeah.
Storing a lot of ballast.
Scene of a disaster years ago.
Yes.
On the severe curves at the east end of Salisbury Station, an LSWR Plymouth Boat Express was derailed in 1906, the train running on the line second from the right at approximately 60 miles an hour. The limit is now 20 miles an hour. The LSWR and GWR used to have separate routes, running parallel from Salisbury to Wilton. These have been rationalised, using the LSWR road up to a new junction at Wilton.
just see his tail going on.
From Wilton to Warminster, the Wylye Valley is followed.
Oh, one of our foremen of Bristol come from Stratford.
Arlene.
Samuels.
Warminster still provides military traffic, served from the sidings to the right.
That's a change from the old days, isn't it? Oh, something over there.
On approaching Westbury, the rain returned. Stone trains can be seen on either side of the main line. The semaphore signals at Bradford Junction are the only ones remaining in the West Country and are due for replacement very shortly.
You can see why.
Oh yeah, it was 40 on a straight through junction.
Doesn't make much sense, sorry, because you're going to stop here for the pick up the staff anyway. Well, they give you patching times in the book, but
The Great Western's original main line to Bristol is joined at Barthampton, the junction having recently been remodelled.
yeah.
Why was that? No particular reason, was there?
Oh, we were overtime at Southampton.
Oh, that's true, yes, we were able to stand there for bloody ages.
They've just done all this, just relayed all this.
Yes.
I don't know if it's ever since you last came over, but they've changed the style of the junction a little bit.
Yeah.
They've got the speed up.
No, they'd just
Yeah.
done it when we were there. We came through.
That's Barthampton done.
After stopping at Bath and Keynsham, we approach Bristol. The once extensive marshalling yards now contain only a few engineers' wagons.
How long does it take you to get right across, though?
Yeah, into number 5.
That's the 33 coming out to take
Looks
over.
like R1, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's taking.
As we enter Temple Meads, Class 33, number 33023, runs out to take our train, which reverses here, on to Cardiff.
How long is it going to take to dismantle?
About 2 or 3 minutes. Poor old things.
You want the train heat on? No, but wait till you-
In the 33, we approach Filton. The line to the right goes to Bristol Parkway. At Patchway, the GWR South Wales main line comes in from the right.
Restricted, presumably, is it? Straight through. It's 60, is it? Have you got any 125 on me, Welshbourne?
The centenary of the opening of the Severn Tunnel is being celebrated in 1986. The tunnel's approximately 4 1/3 miles long, 1 1/4 miles being under the river itself. On leaving the tunnel, the rain recommenced, obliterating our view of Severn Tunnel Junction. The rain eased on leaving Newport, where the District Engineer's Saloon has been repainted in GWR colours.
Oh, fully lined as well.
lines to the right are freight only, leading to once busy coal pits and steelworks. The approach to Cardiff was again in a downpour, our journey finishing as it had started. 200 rail enthusiasts travelled to Holland in March 1986 to view the former BR-EM2s in action on Dutch railways. Nick Dodson's Rail Films Limited travelled with the group to record the action, and a part of BR's history coming to an end overseas. The following is an extract from a full 30-minute programme available direct from Rail Films Limited.
This was what the enthusiasts had really come to see. With Electra up front, Railway Travel and Photography's special train heading out into the morning and Utrecht. The whole experience had recharged the group's batteries as they savoured every moment of this rare excursion. The uniqueness of this trip is that its participants can travel back in time to experience a ride behind motive power that ended in Britain some years ago. To them, the idea of such time train travel is far from warped. Utrecht presented the group with a first opportunity to get that standard three-quarter frontal view in reasonable light. A press corps of photographers whose lenses are so devoted to flanged fascinations lined up on the platform. Electra then ran round the train to take it onwards to Amersfoort. Dutch railways provided the number collectors with a myriad of numerical achievements to clock up. Distinctive lines have led the older popular EMUs to gain the nickname of Hippo. Here, Electra takes temporary leave of the special, and Loco 1501, in rather grubby condition, backs on to provide the group with a further EM2 experience. Next stop for the EM2's runabout was the Transport Museum, set in the quiet backwaters of Utrecht, before the special charged onwards to Amsterdam. And our next stop?
Well, we are going to Hoorn, and at Hoorn there's the museum depot, and which houses very, very nice, small but very nice engines. And well, I think the most famous engine there is locomotive 7742 Bellow, which was totally rebuilt. About 90% was new, entirely new boiler, and which will officially run this year. And the group will have a special hold by locomotive number 5. That's Lamuse, built in Belgium, 1929, 06 octane.
This smart blue liveried 060 was provided with a special train for the RT&P Special. The group returned to Hook of Holland, once more under power provided by the classic EM2. More than just a box of solenoids on wheels, but surely a classic and little praised locomotive representing the pioneer days of electric railway history. A full-length version of this EM2 tape is available from Railfilms Limited, who in association with Railscene are now pleased to present a 6-minute portfolio of their own recent releases. If you're interested in railways, new or old, and you're looking for a quality video alternative, then maybe Rail Films have a selection that's along the right track for you. Rail Films Limited specialise in making high-quality 16mm films for interest and entertainment on any rail-related subject. By the line side, Roger Nicholas tells of the delights in watching the trains go by in a video called Damn Good Time, video number 1.
I think what I'm trying to do now is to try and get as much of a pictorial record on cinefilm of the steam scenes that we can see now, because my big steam days were definitely in the 1950s and 1960s. And of course, I didn't have any cameras then, didn't have the equipment to record what we can now. And I'm so thankful that now I have got cameras, a good cine camera with sound, that I've now got the opportunities to record all the scenes which I remember 20 and 30 years ago.
His lifelong involvement with steam is shared with the viewer who's taken out by the line side on several Saturday afternoons. The historic Settle and Carlisle Railway, will it close and become just a memory?
The general opinion seems to be about 95% that it's going to close whether we like it or not, but there's just a sneaking 5% that possibly it may, or part of it, be kept open.
Paddy's Engine, video number 2, is the story of one man's love for steam and a childhood dream come true in owning his own mainline Class 5 locomotive. But the background story is one of hard work by Carnforth's maintenance crews who give the old nag a new coat of paint for her 1985 season in Scotland. Paddy Smith's Class 5 LMS 5407 is seen journeying through the Highlands of Scotland, with stunning scenery to complement an atmosphere of sheer nostalgia en route from Fort William to Mallaig. Here we catch up with a royal visit to Birmingham's Railway Museum, where recognition is given of Tyseley's contribution to education and work training manpower services scheme. The programme, Tyseley, A Light Here for Railway Museum. A royal saloon is christened, and we take to the main line with number 7029 Clun Castle. Other special occasions give Rail Films the chance to cover unusual and seldom covered railway events. In A Brew of Steam, we catch up with Dinting's coal tank, working between Manchester's Victoria Station and Wilson's famous Newton Heath Brewery. a special and never to be repeated event. Drama 2. The Summit Tunnel's spectacular and almost volcanic fire and its after effects were covered by Rail Films. Working for 6 months in difficult conditions, Rail Films' new production, Incident at Summit Tunnel, shows how contractors Balvac Whitley Moran effected repairs and brought this vital lifeline back into use for British Rail. Rail Films' knowledge of railway matters and experience of filmmaking make the selection a first-class ticket for any armchair railway journey.
The Keighley and Worth Valley Railway is set in the heart of Bronte country in West Yorkshire. A former Midland branch, it's been restored to give a 1950s and 60s atmosphere. The company's locomotive sheds and workshops are at Haworth, last but one station on the line, and locomotives are seen being prepared for the 1986 Enthusiasts Weekend. The railway connects with BR at Keighley on the Leeds to Carlisle line. Double-headed non-stop trains are featured on Enthusiast weekends, together with local workings with an engine at each end. The start out of Keighley is particularly difficult, round a sharp curve and up a gradient, commencing at the platform end. Most recent locomotive to enter traffic is this interesting well tank, which commenced work shortly before Christmas 1985. The stations on the line are painted in BR LMR colours of the 50s. The 8F was repainted into BR colours at the beginning of 1986. The first station on the line at Ingro West is at present out of use, pending reconstruction. The railway has acquired replacement buildings. The present small block is due to be demolished. Trains run non-stop through here at present, subject to a speed restriction. The minute station of Damons has won many awards over the years. It was the terminus for the local trains run on the Enthusiasts weekend. The only passing loop on the line is situated just beyond Damons, this allowing an intensive service to be run. Oakworth was used for filming The Railway Children and is a showpiece of the line. A reminder of the area's industrial past reveals the railway's two 280s departing up the bank from Oakworth. The USA type is known as Big Jim. Haworth Station is the company's administrative centre. It is situated just before the locomotive yard. In the yard, the ex-Crewe North MPD steam crane lifts wheels for a ginty tank under restoration. The railway climbs for its entire length, the road giving fine views of locomotives working hard. This pair have just left Haworth for Oxenholme. Oxenholme is the terminus, and besides being a working museum in its own right, has a museum building housing a great variety of locomotives and stock awaiting restoration, together with numerous other railway artefacts. The company's carriage workshops are also situated here. Our final shot of the line shows the 4F departing downhill back to Keighley. As secretary of the SLS in the 50s, W. Camwell was in a unique position to record scenes such as this, of steam motor trains replacing electrics in 1951 on the Lancaster to Heysham line. The locomotive was the first of the Stanier 044 tanks. Cam recorded many pre-grouping locomotives and branches that have gone forever, Holcombe Brook being the terminus of an L&Y branch from Bury. When Cam visited the Vale of Rydal in 1951, the locomotives were black and the coaches red and cream. Other than the colours, little has changed on this railway. The SLS South Staffordshire Rail Tour was filmed on the 26th of May 1951 by Stanley Eads for Cam and is seen reversing on the ex-LNWR branch at Darlaston near Walsall. the 5th of May 1951, a joint MLS-SLS Pennine Rail tour is seen approaching Netherton on the Melton branch and entering Huddersfield, powered by an L&Y 242T in LMS livery but with BR numbers. The last run of a Hughes L&Y 460 took place on the 1st of July 1951 on a special from Blackpool to York. It's seen here at Manchester and York. Unfortunately, none of these magnificent machines was retained for posterity. On a Scottish trip, Cam filmed this B1 at Cairney Junction on the Great North of Scotland Railway's main line, the locomotive being barely 1 year old at the time. A native GNOS locomotive, class D40, departs with vintage stock. 62267 was a sister of the preserved Gordon Highlander. On the parallel lines from Grantown to Boat of Garton, a Black 5 overhauls the D40. Token exchange at speed enabled reasonably fast schedules to be maintained on the single-track main line. The North Sunderland Light Railway was an independent concern which made a junction with the East Coast Main Line at Chat Hill between Alnmouth and Berwick. The line was latterly worked by an ex-North Eastern Railway Y7 tank with 6 and 4-wheel coaches. It's seen leaving the terminus at Seahouses, calling at the only intermediate station, North Sunderland, and arriving at the junction. Cam visited the S&C when Jubilee still reigned, and Garsdale was still a junction. At King's Lynn in 1952, D16s, the Gresley Roundtop rebuilds of the famous Great Eastern Claude Hamiltons, still performed in daily service on Cambridge and Norwich trains. This was another famous class which failed to reach preservation. This little Drummond tank of the Highland Railway survived until 1956. The Dornoch branch ran from a junction at the Mound on the far north line, the little tank, together with a sister, 55053, being superseded by Great Western pannier tanks. Our final shots from Cam's collection show workings on the famous northeastern branch over the backbone of England, from Darlington via Barnard's Castle to Kirkby Stephen. The viaducts are Bella and Deepdale. Bella was the highest viaduct in England at 196 feet. In March and April 1986, Ray Freeman visited South Africa to record the everyday workings of steam locomotives. Sadly, these are becoming fewer and fewer as electrification spreads and diesels are introduced. All three types of motive power are seen in these views of Kazerni Depot. A small reversal of the trend occurred in March. The Brayton to Lothair line returned to steam working. Class 24s took over from Class 34 diesels, which had suffered cracked bogies. Probably the best known of South African locomotives are the Garretts. Class GMA number 4122 is seen on the Steelport branch on the 28th of March 1986, the first visit of a member of this class since 1972. Garrett then worked its train to Belfast, where the train was taken to Witbank by Class 15CA number 2350. Note the additional water tank behind the locomotive, necessary because of the vast arid areas of the country. At Lindley, a Class 19D with Vanderbilt tender passes on an embankment, an unusual feature in South Africa where most lines were built on the flat or followed contours. At Bethlehem, classes 15F and 25 come off shed. Many locomotives used to sport embellishments and unofficial names. 8 coupled types predominate. The 15Fs were the final 482s, the 25s, the final steam type, 484s. Two types of Class 25 were built, condenser and non-condenser. Most of the former have been rebuilt into conventional form, their tenders cut down into an odd profile, as seen on the leading locomotive of the pair of 25s on a Bloemfontein to Bethlehem special. Steam's last stand in South Africa is represented by the solitary Class 26, number 3450, rebuilt from a Class 25 as recently as 1982. Originally painted red and known as the Red Devil, it's now been repainted blue and is no longer in everyday service. It's seen near Kimberley on a special. A former condenser Class 25 reverses out of the shed at Kimberley on the 31st of March 1986. This shed serves the main line from Cape Town to Johannesburg as it crosses the Karoo semi-desert. For many years this has been the principal steam main line, but it's soon to be electrified.
Those who are here today to come and cheer, to turn your cheers into action, please use the line. Please show your confidence in it by actually using it. Because in that way you can
With these words, David Mitchell, the Minister of State for Transport, officially opened the Barmouth Bridge to locomotive-hauled traffic. A piece of the timber taken from the affected piers was presented to the Mayor of Barmouth. It well illustrates the damage suffered by the bridge.
that the modern work has now been achieved. I hope you'll keep this as a happy memento of a very successful day.
After 37427 had been named after the bridge, in Welsh only, the VIP party travelled to Porthlui in a 6-car sprinter train. These units have now been drafted onto the line, giving a major improvement in comfort. Unfortunately, it means that passengers will no longer be able to enjoy the splendid scenery through the front windows, as with DMUs. Sprinters took over East Midlands workings in the first few months of 1986. They represent a major change in the look of BR, as they're set to replace most DMU and some locomotive hauled trains over the next 18 months. Variety is provided by the four-wheel rail buses of classes 141, 2 and 3. Class 142s and provincial services livery have been introduced on Ormskirk to the left and Colne services from Preston. The West Coast Main Line is just out of sight at the back of our picture. The old orders illustrated by a Class 104 DMU heading southeast from Preston. The Ormskirk line has been singled, all trains using the track furthest from the camera, although the other road remains in situ. Class 143s at present operate from Newcastle only, although further allocations are expected when new deliveries are made. Longest runs at present are to Carlisle on the Newcastle and Carlisle Railway. "143s" rather than sprinters are now the likely power for ScotRail's newly reopened Bathgate line. Present stock consists of Haymarket-based Class 101s, although 143s operated for the first fortnight. The Bathgate line was reopened on the 24th of March 1986, the line having two intermediate stations at Uphall and Livingston North. The terminus is built alongside a car plant, which meant that the line had stayed open to freight traffic, thus reducing the cost of reopening. The centenary of the Mersey Railway is being celebrated by the repainting of two LMS EMUs in that company's livery, without yellow ends. These units were used in connection with the Birkenhead North Open Day. The depot is an EMU maintenance depot, and the usual selection of BR motive power was on display. This Class 03 was the last to be overhauled at Swindon, which closed in March 1986. BR's latest road rail machines are for recovery equipment. The action of transferring from rail to road vehicle was demonstrated for us. These vehicles are allocated to individual depots. Birkenhead undertakes EMU maintenance and is currently converting ex-Watford units to Sandite trains.
New car. That's right. Conversion. All 541 unit. They've still got the numbers up in the window.
At the end of the day, D200 was used to head the 31, 33 and 58 back to Chester for disposal. A charter run for EMI Music to celebrate their 50th anniversary saw Green Arrow and Evening Star double-heading from Edinburgh to Perth. After running to Scotland overnight from York, they were turned at Miller Hill. The train was accompanied by helicopters hired by EMI, their sound often drowning that of the locomotives, seen here crossing the River Almond, just west of Edinburgh. The helicopters again dominate as the train departs after a water stop just short of the passenger's destination of Glen Eagles. The train ran on from Gleneagles as empty stock to Perth, no longer accompanied by the helicopters. It's seen at a road crossing near Aberython, running downhill. An SLOA South Yorkshireman excursion was used to run 777 Salamiel south to Birmingham in order to work out of Marylebone in April and May. For this run only, the smoke deflectors were removed, giving a rare glimpse of the locomotive in its as-built condition. Drifting smoke showed why deflectors had proved necessary. The train was hauled south from Birmingham to Marylebone by the Seven Valleys Standard Class 4 75069, seen approaching Banbury from the north at Great Burton. The first working of mainline steam in the southern region took place from Andover on the Ludgershall branch. Hagley Hall of the Severn Valley was supplied after attempts to obtain southern power from the Midhants and austerity power from the Kent and East Sussex had failed due to the high cost of BR approval procedures. Southern stock was on show in Andover's Upyard, which is normally used for fertiliser traffic. As part of the campaign to keep the Settle and Carlisle open, a special was run at the beginning of March with Hull-based Black 5 5305 Alderman A.E. Draper. In their dying days, Hastings units have travelled far and wide. The Settle and Carlisle was part of the itinerary of their furthest northern exploit, although they didn't quite reach Scotland, reversing at Carlisle. 2 6-car sets were augmented by 2 short-framed power cars. The furthest west Hastings units have travelled is Cornwall, Unit 1032 visiting Saltash and Gunny's Lake on the 21st of December 1985. The Mid-Hants Railway has recently brought 2 locomotives into service. Class 25 Diesel 25067 has been restored as D5217 and was used on the Medstead to Alton section at the beginning of the 1986 season due to problems with track pads on the new extension. This has meant complicated engine changes at Medstead. On Bank Holiday Monday, the diesel lost traction on the climb out of Alton and had to be rescued by the other new locomotive, the XWD 210, which had been brought back from Greece. The WD has been restored to BR condition, although it was never a BR engine. It has been numbered to follow the BR series and given a Scottish region flavour. The WD made its debut on May the 2nd, 1986, and is seen ascending Alton Bank on a special working that evening for all who worked towards her restoration.